Hello, I'm Charles Woolridge Gordon of Esselman, the 110th Grand Master Mason of Scotland. It is my honour and privilege to represent Scottish Freemasonry and introduce this short film describing our humble beginnings to the formation of the Grand Lodge of Scotland in 1736. Scottish Freemasonry is one of the oldest fraternities of its kind, and as Freemasons, we should be very proud of our long, distinguished history and, of course, the contributions we have made to society. Not only has Scotland some of the oldest lodges in the world, but over the centuries has travelled far beyond our shores. I hope that after watching this film, you will gain a better understanding of our past and why Freemasonry means so much to our members today. Freemasonry has stood the test of time, and I have every confidence that it will continue to flourish. Enjoy.
It's good to get out in the fresh air, enjoying nature, the simple things in life. I love the stars. Every twinkle tells its own story. Makes you wonder what's really out there. Here comes the sun, that great blazing star. Time to hit the road. Let us begin. I'm going to take you on a journey through time. Tell you a story about some good men and some great men. Men who have left their mark on the annals of history and the organisation they all believed in. An organisation still around today. This story begins in the days of the great cathedral builders. Throughout the Middle Ages, people rarely travelled far from home as it was fraught with danger. But we all know you can't halt progress. And as projects get bigger, more lavish, demand for craftsmen of quality grew. These craftsmen journeyed from town to town, over mountains, crossing rivers, through valleys and glens, ready to start work wherever they were needed. As work increased, the demand for labour grew. Not just any kind of labour though, it had to be the very best. Unfortunately, there was no easy way to verify references. So, how do you hire those with the necessary skills? Initially, it was trial and error, but then they found a way. They united to protect their common interest, formed themselves into groups, shared ideas, visions and designs. Masters passed on their knowledge from generation to generation. They trained apprentices to the highest standard of their craft and made sure work was only given to those who were qualified.
In 1598, one man transformed Freemasonry forever. His name was William Shaw. Not only was he the Master of Works for King James VI of Scotland, but he was also the General Warden of all Scottish stonemasons. The King charged Shaw to establish rules of how lodges should function, to create order from perceived chaos. The fact that he had to revisit these in 1599 is neither here nor there. Well, actually. It's fair to say that not everybody was happy with the new arrangements, especially when the Lodge of Edinburgh was named first and principal lodge. Now, that didn't sit too well with the locals here in Colwinning, who claimed that their lodge was the oldest. They felt so insulted that they dispatched a man, Archibald Barclay, to Holyrood Palace to see the king and sort things out. Problem was, he wasn't home.
Barclay was not at all pleased. He had travelled a long way and insisted that he speak to somebody. The person that he got was the man himself, William Shaw.
Shaw knew he was in a spot of bother, but he was smart and came up with a canny compromise. He proposed that Colwinning be the head and second lodge, hoping that would calm the revolt. But they saw through this and wanted nothing to do with it.
Earlier in 1589, King James travelled to Scandinavia to meet his future Queen, Anne of Denmark. He was accompanied by Shaw, who travelled back to Scotland ahead of the wedding party to prepare for their arrival. Shaw gave Holyrood Palace a makeover, as well as this once magnificent palace here in Dunfermline, which later became Anne's home. He was also responsible for the elaborate ceremony, greeting her at Leith, and subsequently became master of her ceremonies to her court.
By 1593, he was appointed Chamberlain to the Lordship of Dunfermline, an office of Queen Anne, where he worked closely with his friends Alexander Seton and William Fowler, receipting accounts for jewels the Queen bought and collecting rents on her behalf. Shaw's tomb in the sanctuary of Dunfermline Abbey was commissioned by his friend Seton and Queen Anne. Engraved upon it is an inscription in Latin composed by Seton himself. It reads, "This humble structure of stones covers a man of excellent skill, notable probity, singular integrity of life, adorned with the greatest of virtues." He had travelled in France and many other kingdoms for the improvement of his mind. He wanted no liberal training, was most skillful in architecture, was early recommended to great persons for the singular gifts of his mind, and he was not only unwearied and indefatigable in labours and business, but constantly active and vigorous, and was most dear to every good man who knew him. He was born to do good offices, and thereby to gain the hearts of men. Now he lives eternally with God. Queen Anne ordered this monument to be erected to the memory of this most excellent and upright man, lest his virtues, worthy of eternal commendation, should pass with the death of his body. I wonder what my friends will say about me. Is it any wonder that the world considers William Shaw to be the father of modern Freemasonry? He died on the 18th of April, 1602. That was a Thursday.
At the end of the 17th century, Scotland was in turmoil, and many were being persecuted because of their religion. In 1680, John Skene, a Quaker, merchant and member of the Aberdeen Lodge, fled and became the first known Freemason in North America. He settled in what is now known as New Jersey and founded the town of Perth, named after the ancient capital city of Scotland. A few years later, Skene was joined by John Coburn, a member of the Melrose Lodge. He didn't stay in Perth, however, but set off and founded the town of Melrose, also in New Jersey. So taken with life in the New World, he wrote back to his lodge encouraging others to join him in the land of opportunity. Many did. Us Scots get everywhere. As time went on and the Masonic world changed, the Edinburgh lodges thought that a grand lodge for Scotland would be a good idea. So, in 1736, they issued 100 invitations to lodges all over Scotland. Of those invited, only 33 came. Of the 33 who attended, after listening to the plan, 12 left and wanted nothing to do with it. This new system couldn't find them work. It couldn't lay down a minimum wage, and it certainly couldn't negotiate contracts with anyone. It just wasn't practical. It was only interested in ritual, initiation, and adding another layer of bureaucracy. It had nothing to do with the craft of stonemasonry. In order to include those that did not agree with the plan, it was agreed that lodges could retain their independence, allowing them to keep their own traditions alive. And every lodge founded after 1736 enjoyed the same privileges. Aye, I do love a bit of Burns, especially sung like that, by somebody who looks like her. I wonder what she's doing Saturday night. Can't blame a guy for trying.
Hi, Bob.
Oh, hi, how are you?
No bad. Do you want some more?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Same again for me, please.
And how are you? Well?
Good, thank you. You?
I'm fine, thanks.
Aye. I wonder what he was really like.
Well, he was a farmer, he was a customs and excise officer, he was also a Scottish Freemason. And did you know that many of his poems have got hidden meanings?
No. What were they?
Well, many things. But you'll need to understand, in those days, there were many topics that were just not discussed. But Robert Burns did. And that's what made him so popular with everyday folk.
Aye, he was some boy, eh?
Aye, he was that. Let me show you this. My favourite book of all time, absolutely. This is written by one of Edinburgh's most treasured sons, Sir Walter Scott. He was a Scottish Freemason too. There were lots of Scottish Freemasons all over the world. Sports legends, astronaut, kings, even George Washington.
Was he?
He was that.
Didn't know that.
Well, here we go.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
No, I'll get this. Hang on.
Cheers, Bob.
There you go. Keep the change.
Thank you.
Well, Slange, Bob.
Aye. Slange. Aye, Robert Burns was a great character. A very deep character. Most people just think of him as a ladies' man who liked to dram, but he's much more than that.
In 1752, George Washington was initiated into a Scottish lodge in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Now, although he was very busy and could not attend regularly, he did have a lot of dealings with the Scots, especially during the French-Indian Wars. When the War of Independence started, there was lots of stories about the Scots coming to America just to fight the English. After the war, and when things settled down, a new capital city and home for the first president was to be built. They could have used lumber, which was plentiful in those days, but public officials declared that stone would be more fitting. I mean, come on, he was the commander-in-chief of a newborn country after all. When asked where to find the best stonemasons, Washington himself declared that the best in the world come from Scotland. Must be all that porridge. Now, Scottish stonemasons were perfectionists and liked to take their time, much to the frustration of the Americans. To help speed things up, they were offered slaves to train. But to be a stonemason, you had to become a Freemason. To them, there was no difference. But to be a Freemason, you had to be freeborn. In 1812, another disagreement between Britain and America happened during Britain's war with Napoleon. The Americans called it free enterprise, the Brits gun running. Once again, Britain invaded, this time from Canada, reaching as far as Washington DC and setting the city on fire, including that home that was built for Washington. But it was so well made that only the roof burned and fell in. Once peace was declared, it was re-roofed, and in order to disguise the soot and smoke damage, it was later whitewashed and renamed, you guessed it, the White House. Hi, Bob. Very good. This theme of Scots travelling abroad and starting lodges not only happened in America, but it happened in nearly every corner of the globe. What makes Scottish Freemasonry different to Freemasonry around the world is that their lodges are free to make their own day-to-day decisions.
I'll raise the lift.
In 1446, Sir William St Clair started building Rosslyn Chapel as a place of private worship for him and his family. People believed that when you died, access to heaven did not happen immediately. One would have to sit in purgatory until their soul was cleansed before entering heaven, and doing good works in life would speed up the process. Rosslyn Chapel wasn't just a place of worship, it was also a place of learning, and it helped to spread intellectual and spiritual knowledge. Legend has it that in Italy stood an ornately designed pillar, and Sir William was so taken by it that he wanted one of his own. Upon his return to Scotland, he tasked his master mason to build a pillar of equal standing here in Rosslyn Chapel. Try as he might, the master mason could not capture Sir William's vision. So, leaving his young apprentice behind, he travelled to Italy to see the original pillar for himself. The apprentice had a dream, and in that dream he saw himself carving the pillar. So, when he awoke the next day, he told Sir William about his dream and was given permission to proceed. It was a great success, and everybody was proud of him. Everybody except the master. When he returned, he had seen what his apprentice had done and heard about the lavish praise and was filled with jealous rage. He seized the hammer.
Would you be as quick in my grave?
And struck the apprentice on the head, killing him instantly. The master mason fled, but he was hunted down and executed for murder. The legend continues that as a punishment, his face was carved into the opposite corner to forever gaze upon his apprentice's pillar. We now know more about the history of Scottish Freemasonry and its humble beginnings in early modern Scotland, not to mention its many famous members over the years. Freemasonry is a fraternal organisation, a network of like-minded people with fantastic links, not just in Scotland, all over the globe. That's my story come to an end. The past should never be forgotten, but the future is just as important. No matter what problems one might face in life, being a Freemason means that you don't have to face them alone.